Cops arrest black woman at bank for fake check, unaware she is FBI agent. Before we start today's story, comment below where you're watching from and hit subscribe if you haven't already. You won't want to miss what's next. When Dr. Lena Carter walked into Rivergate Federal Savings, she thought she was just going to deposit a big check. It was going to be a simple, normal morning. She didn't expect anything strange or upsetting. But from the moment she handed the envelope to the teller, things felt different. The friendly smile she was used to seeing disappeared from the faces around her. People looked suspicious. And soon, 2 police officers came into the bank, looking ready to cause trouble. They looked at Lena and decided, without asking any questions, that she must be trying to cheat the bank. They judged her just because she was a black woman. They didn't try to understand. They didn't want to listen. They just assumed she was guilty. But Lena wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't a thief. She wasn't lying. She was a senior FBI agent, trained to handle danger and to notice details that most people would miss. And when the officers snapped handcuffs onto her wrists, they didn't realize that they had just started a chain of events that would reveal the truth and show the world how wrong they were. Before we go further, let's pause for a moment. Imagine telling your friends where you are watching from and asking them to join in. That's the kind of excitement this story is building. Tomorrow's story will be even bigger and more interesting, so it's worth paying attention. Back in the morning, the sun was shining brightly in Lena's kitchen. She had just finished a phone call with her friend Jordan. They had been talking about moving money safely and making sure everything was tracked correctly. It was a work conversation, but now Lena wanted to focus on something more personal, something close to her heart. The check she was holding felt heavy. Not because of the paper itself, but because of what it represented. It was part of her father's lifelong work in the community, and it would help fund a new technology center for kids and families. Years of care, hard work, and dedication were behind that envelope. The check was more than money. It was a symbol of hope, and Lena felt proud to carry it. She hummed a cheerful little tune, a song called This Little Light of Mine, as she dressed for the day. She put on a black sleeveless top and white shorts. It was her day off, so she wanted to feel comfortable and free. She looked briefly in the mirror, adjusting her natural hair, and checked that everything looked neat. Then she picked up her purse and the envelope with the check. She was ready to go. The drive to Rivergate Federal Savings was calm. Lena watched people starting their mornings. Shopkeepers were lifting the metal gates of their stores. Children waited patiently for the school bus, backpacks slung over their shoulders. Old couples walked together slowly, holding hands. These were the same streets her father had walked for decades, helping people, fixing problems, and spreading kindness. Seeing all of it made Lena smile softly. When Lena entered the bank, the lobby was busy but quiet in the usual way. The marble floors gleamed under the fluorescent lights, and the air conditioning made a low, steady hum. She saw an old man helping his wife count coins at a writing station. A young mother gently rocked her baby in a stroller. The soft clicks of receipt printers and low murmurs of conversation filled the air. It was the familiar, peaceful sound of ordinary life. Lena got in line and waited patiently, watching the people around her. When it was her turn, she approached the teller, Sofia Vega, with a warm smile. Sofia smiled back, but Lena noticed a flicker of uncertainty in her eyes when she opened the envelope. "Good morning," Lena said, her voice calm and friendly. "I'd like to deposit this check, please." Sofia's eyes widened slightly at the amount of money, but she kept her professional smile. "Of course, ma'am. May I see your ID?" Lena handed over her driver's license without hesitation. Sofia began processing the check at her terminal. Then the bank manager, Felicity Knotts, came over. Her heels clicked sharply against the marble floor as she walked. Her suit was perfectly pressed, and her posture was rigid. She seemed serious and very important, and her presence made the calm morning feel tense. "Is there something I can help with?" she asked. Her voice was sweet but had a sharp edge. She glanced at Lena's outfit as if to say it didn't belong in a bank. "I'm just depositing a check," Lena said politely. "It's a settlement from a federal whistleblower fund." Felicity's eyebrows rose. "A settlement? Are you sure this check is real?" Lena felt a small peace-sign of irritation at the way she said, "Checked," but she stayed calm. "Yes, I'm sure. I have all the proper documents." Felicity's lips pressed together tightly. "And what is your job?" she asked, her tone pointed. Lena asked softly, "Why does that matter?" She already knew why. They were playing games, treating her like a criminal without cause. She had seen this before, but from the other side, as the person investigating someone. "We have rules for unusual transactions," Felicity said. "It's for your protection." Lena noticed Sophia shifting nervously, glancing between her computer and Felicity. The young teller clearly felt uncomfortable. "I understand the rules," Lena said. "But this is a real check. I've been a customer at this bank for many years." Felicity gave a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I need to check with security," she said, clicking away with her heels toward her office. Minutes passed slowly. Lena stood calmly at the counter, noticing how other customers were reacting. The mother with the baby stopped rocking her stroller. The elderly couple whispered quietly. Everyone seemed tense, waiting to see what would happen. Then the two officers came in. Malcolm and Harlan walked into the bank, badges shining in the morning light. They exchanged looks with Felicity, who gave a small nod toward Lena. Suddenly, the mood in the bank changed. People stepped back, and many took out their phones to record what was happening. Lena felt the crowd's attention on her. Harlan stood behind Lena, while Malcolm approached from the front. "Ma'am, step away from the counter," Harlan said, his voice trying to sound powerful. Lena stayed calm. "I'm just depositing my check. There's no problem here." "You're under investigation for trying to commit fraud," Malcolm said. Before Lena could explain, cold metal cuffs clicked onto her wrists. The sound bounced off the marble floors. Phones in the crowd went up higher, recording every moment. The warm morning sun, which had felt comforting in her kitchen, now seemed harsh and sharp. It shone through the windows, showing everyone her humiliation. Harlan forced Lena down onto the counter. Her arms were twisted behind her back, and the handcuffs dug painfully into her wrists. "Stop resisting," Harlan growled, though Lena hadn't moved a muscle. "I'm not resisting," she said evenly. "If you would just listen." "Shut it," Malcolm snapped, turning to face the crowd. "Put your phones away. This is a police matter." Some people lowered their phones, but most kept recording. Lena saw Felicity watching with a fake worried look. "We have strict rules for big transactions," Felicity said. "It's standard procedure." Lena tried again, her voice calm. "This check is real. I can prove it." Harlan sneered. "Sure. Just like all the other stolen checks. You thought you could walk in here and cash this? We already checked your ID." "All right," Malcolm said with a smirk. "Nice try with that fake ID." The handcuffs pressed harder against Lena's wrists, making them tingle. She focused on her breathing, staying calm, using all her training to keep steady. Inside, she was furious, but her face showed nothing. "Young lady, that's no way to treat anyone," a strong voice said. Lena recognized Mr. Lawrence, a retired veteran who often came to the bank. He held his phone steadily, recording. "I've banked here for 40 years, he said firmly. "I've never seen such a disgrace." Malcolm turned to him. "Sir, put the phone away or you'll interfere with police business." "The only interference I see is with this woman's civil rights," Mr. Lawrence replied, stepping back slightly as Malcolm moved toward him. "Final warning," Malcolm growled. The officers pulled Lena upright and walked her toward the door. Her legs stayed steady, and her head remained high, even though her wrists hurt. Customers pressed against the walls to give them space, phones still recording. Outside, Harlan leaned close to Lena's ear. "Let's see that smug look now," he whispered. Lena said nothing. She carefully observed everything: the badge numbers, the time, the cameras, and witnesses. They got into the police car. The seats were hot from sitting in the sun. The cage between the front and back seats cast shadows across her face. Malcolm said cheerfully, "Another scammer caught. That makes 3 this month." Harlan laughed. Yeah, but this one's special. Did you see her little workout outfit? She thought that made her look legitimate. Lena stayed calm, watching the people still recording at the bank. Felicity waved dismissively at another customer. Mr. Lawrence stayed near the door, phone raised, looking serious. The car door slammed shut, and Lena whispered under her breath, "They have no idea who they just arrested." Her eyes hardened as she remembered every detail, the way her wrists were handled, the faces of everyone involved, and every mistake they had made. The engine started, and the hum drowned out the crowd. Lena sat straight, even though the handcuffs continued to press into her wrists. Harlan adjusted the rear-view mirror to watch her. Lena didn't look at him. Her face remained calm and determined. Through the windshield, she could see the bank sign in the morning sun, Rivergate Federal Savings. The car idled for a moment as they prepared to drive away. Later, in the booking room, the fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Fingerprint ink stained Lena's fingers black. The cuffs had left red marks on her wrists. Officer Reynolds guided her hand carefully through the printing process. "Right thumb, roll left to right." "Again," he said. Through the glass partition, Lena saw Harlan and Malcolm typing their report. They laughed and joked, adding lies about her. The subject displayed aggressive body language, Malcolm read aloud. Refused to comply with verbal commands. Added furtive movements. Lena knew every word was false. She had seen reports like this before, but on the other side. "I need to make a phone call," Lena said loudly, ensuring her rights were noticed. Harlan barely looked up. "When we're done processing you, it's your right," he said dismissively. "I should be allowed to call," Lena said firmly. "You've got a lot of nerve talking about rights after trying to pass bad checks," Harlan laughed. A younger officer, Evelyn, looked uncomfortable. "Shouldn't we let her call?" he asked softly. Harlan ignored him. "She even said she works for the feds. These scammers get more creative every time." Evelyn looked down, clearly unsure. Lena remembered this too. Another detail for later, carefully stored in her mind. "My handcuffs are too tight," Zoe said loudly. She wanted to make sure all the police officers could hear her. "I need a doctor," she added, trying to get someone's attention. But nobody listened. She asked again, "I want to call someone," 3 times, but that was also not allowed. Harlan, one of the officers, laughed. "Keep saying that if you want. I'm sure someone cares," he said meanly, as if it were funny. Diane, a thin woman who worked at the police station, began writing down Zoe's things. She looked at each item carefully and wrote it down slowly. "One envelope containing a check," she said. She paused and squinted at the amount. $287, $400. Her eyebrows went way up. Diane carefully opened the envelope. Suddenly, a small paper slipped out and fell to the floor. Lena froze. She knew exactly what it was. It was a special bank slip that showed a big sum of money moving from one place to another. The numbers on it looked just like the ones in a case she had been following for months. Lena's mind started racing. Could this slip of paper be the missing piece she had been looking for? Could it show how bad people were moving their money through real banks? She tried very hard to stay calm, even though she felt a huge rush of excitement and worry all at once. The door to the booking room suddenly opened. Assistant District Attorney Calvin Drake came in. He was wearing a perfect suit that looked completely out of place in the police station. Lena had heard about him before. He had a reputation for hiding evidence in an important case last year, even when there were videos that showed the truth. "Where's our big check fraud suspect?" Drake asked, looking around like he was in a play. His eyes landed on Lena, and he smiled at her. He walked closer to look at the forms on the desk. "That's quite a lot of money you tried to pass today. Don't worry, we take financial crimes very seriously here," he said, as if he were making a show for everyone in the room. Lena looked him straight in the eyes. She didn't blink or look away. For a moment, Drake's confident smile faltered. "We'll make sure this doesn't just disappear," Drake said loudly, so all the officers could hear. "People can't just walk into our banks and do whatever they want." "You made a mistake," Lena said quietly, but clearly and firmly. Every person in the room stopped and looked at her. Drake laughed, but it didn't seem as sure as before. He turned away and told an officer to open the holding cell. The metal door scraped across the floor. Lena watched him leave as the door slammed shut. The loud noise echoed through the room like a judge hitting a gavel. Lena sat on the hard metal bench, thinking about the slip of paper, the bank, and Drake. She realized that all these things were connected. The fluorescent lights above her buzzed endlessly. In the cell next to hers, someone was humming an old blues song. Lena closed her eyes and focused on her breathing. She knew patience was now her strongest weapon. The truth would always come out, she told herself. The late afternoon sun slanted through the narrow windows, casting long shadows across the concrete floor. Lena had spent hours noticing every little detail in the cell. She noticed the crack in the wall, the rusty drain in the corner, and every officer who walked past. She remembered the pattern of their steps, even their voices. The usual quiet of the afternoon was suddenly broken by voices echoing down the corridor. Lena recognized Drake's practiced, loud voice before she even saw him. He sounded just like he did on television when he said, "Justice served," even though he had let bad officers go free. "We have to follow procedures," Drake said loudly. "The integrity of our financial institutions must be protected." He walked with Chief Natalie Robles behind him. The chief's normally calm face looked worried. Behind them, news cameras had their red recording lights on, flashing and clicking. "I would like a private word with the chief," Lena said clearly, her voice strong but calm. Reporters leaned forward, trying to hear what she said. Drake smiled, but his smile seemed a little weaker. "Any discussions about your case should go through proper channels," he said. "Just 5 minutes," Lena said, looking directly at Chief Robles. "You can spare that much, can't you, Chief?" The chief straightened her shoulders. She was aware of the reporters outside. "Of course, my office," she said. Drake said, "I really must advise against this," but Robles interrupted, her voice firm. "It's my department, Mr. Drake." She motioned for an officer to unlock Lena's cell. Lena stood slowly. Her muscles were stiff from sitting on the hard bench. She followed Robles down the hallway past the reporters shouting questions. Drake followed behind, his expensive shoes clicking on the floor. The chief's office was small but tidy. Awards and certificates were on the wall. Stacks of case files were on the desk. Robles closed the door, stopping the noise from outside. "All right," she said, sitting behind her desk. "What's so urgent?" Lena took out her wallet, which had been returned during processing. She opened it slowly and let her badge catch the light. "Supervisory Special Agent Lena Carter," she said quietly. "FBI, Civil Rights and Financial Crimes Division." The color drained from Robles's face. Behind Lena, she heard Drake take a sharp breath. His trademark smile had disappeared. "I don't," Robles started. "The check your officers said I forged," Lena continued, "is settlement money from a federal whistleblower case for a community technology center in my father's name." Drake tried to regain control. "This doesn't change the procedure. We need to review the file." "Review?" Lena asked. "You mean hide it until everyone forgets?" "These are serious allegations," Drake said. "We can't just dismiss them." "Your officers profiled me," Lena said flatly. "They ignored my rights, used too much force, and your bank manager helped hide suspicious transactions I've been tracking for months. Do you want me to continue?" Robles rubbed her temples. "Agent Carter, we will sort this out, but carefully." "The union?" Lena asked quietly. "Is that what you are worried about, Chief? Not the civil rights violations? Not that your officers laid hands on a federal agent without cause?" Lena watched understanding dawn in Robles's eyes. The chief realized that this problem wouldn't go away easily. She was scared too, afraid of the police union, afraid of protests, and afraid for her career. "I'll speed up your release," Robles said. "Pending review." "Pending review," Lena repeated. "How convenient." Hours later, Lena walked out of the police station into the cold night. Camera flashes went off, and reporters shouted questions she wasn't ready to answer. She kept her face calm as she walked down the steps. Malcolm and Harlan watched near their patrol car. Their smirks showed they felt untouchable, sure the system would protect them. The night wind was cold. She had been wearing workout clothes when they arrested her hours ago. She stopped at the bottom of the steps. "You're all in my jurisdiction now," she whispered, too softly for anyone else to hear. The next morning, sunlight shone through the lace curtains of Ruth Carter's kitchen. It made pretty patterns on the wooden table. Lena sat holding a warm coffee cup, trying not to wince as it pressed against her sore wrists. The smell of her mother's coffee filled the air, comforting her. The screen door creaked as Jordan Cho arrived with laptops and folders. She had dark circles under her eyes from staying up all night. Pastor Miriam came behind her, calm but serious, full of quiet determination. "I pulled everything I could find," Jordan said, spreading files on the table, transaction records, bank numbers, and all the digital trail of the settlement check. Ruth moved around the kitchen, pouring coffee. "You girls need to eat. You can't fight injustice on an empty stomach." "The check is completely real," Jordan said, pointing at documents on her laptop. "I traced it through 3 federal systems. Those officers couldn't have found any problem because there wasn't one." Pastor Miriam leaned in, reading the paperwork. "I've called every civil rights reporter I know. The community needs to hear this. Not just what happened to you, Lena, but the pattern it shows." Lena nodded slowly, her finger tracing the rim of her cup. "We need to be smart. They'll try to hide this under rules and delays." "They've been doing this for years," Ruth said, setting a plate of biscuits on the table. "Different banks, different faces. Same story. They see our money as suspicious and our presence as a threat. Tell them about 87, Mama." Ruth sat down, folding her hands. Rivergate used to be the first state trust. They had a secret policy about certain neighborhoods. Your father spent months collecting stories from people who were treated unfairly, turned away, denied loans, called criminals just for trying to cash their own paychecks. Jordan typed fast. "The bank's chairman now, his family owned First State Trust before it became Rivergate. I bet if we dig, we'll find the same unfair patterns." "We need to fight this in many ways," Pastor Miriam said. "Legal pressure, yes, but moral pressure too. My church won't be quiet while they try to criminalize one of our own." Lena went to the window and stretched. "FOIA requests first. We need every paper about yesterday's arrest. Body camera footage, dispatch records, internal messages." "Jordan, can you start?" "Already done," Jordan said. "I'll submit today. I'm also tracking unusual transactions through that branch. If they're hiding something, we'll see it. My youth group can organize peaceful protests." Pastor Miriam added, "Keep the media focused while we gather evidence. When you're ready, Lena, I want you speaking from my pulpit first." Ruth watched them plan. Proud, but worried. She went to an old cabinet and pulled out a thick photo album. "I've kept everything," she said. "Newspaper articles, community meeting notices, letters from your father. 30 years of proof that nothing has really changed." Lena squeezed her mother's hand. "This time, we'll make it stick, Mama. We have tools now. Daddy didn't have digital records, videos, or federal power." Jordan looked up. "Our strategy: hit them from all sides, federal, state, local. Make it impossible to hide. I'll data mine their transactions to find why they reacted so aggressively to you." The group worked all morning and afternoon. The kitchen table became a war room. Papers everywhere, laptops humming, phones buzzing with messages from allies. The smell of coffee turned into Ruth's vegetable soup as she made them eat. They worked late into the afternoon, talking strategy, checking records, making lists, and planning their next steps. Every detail mattered. Every document, every record, every person they spoke to could help. They were determined to make sure that justice was done this time, and they would not stop until it was. As the sky turned orange, pink, and purple and the sun slowly sank behind the buildings, Lena walked quietly into the living room. The apartment was warm and cozy, But tonight there was a serious feeling in the air. She carefully picked up a picture of her dad from a special shelf where it had been for many years. In the photograph, he was wearing his postal worker uniform. He looked proud, brave, and strong, even though he had faced so many challenges at work and in life. Lena held the picture close to her chest for a moment. She could almost feel her dad's presence, like he was standing right there beside her. She whispered, "We're going to finish what you started, Daddy," and she gently touched the glass over his face. Even though her wrists still hurt from old bruises, her voice was calm and steady. She looked out the window, watching the last golden rays of sunlight paint the clouds. Her jaw was tight, her face serious. She felt determined. Nothing could scare her tonight. The apartment was quiet except for the soft hum of her laptop. Papers were stacked neatly on the table, and the faint smell of coffee filled the air. Lena sat down and started looking at the case files, reading each page carefully. She wanted to make sure she understood everything perfectly. Suddenly, there was a loud, fast knocking at the door. Lena recognized it immediately. "That's Jordan," she thought. Jordan always knocked quickly, like a fast little drum. The door burst open, and Jordan came in. Her hair was messy, and her messenger bag was half open. Her laptop was already on in her hands, glowing softly. She looked at Lena with wide eyes. "Someone posted the video," Jordan said quickly. "It's everywhere. Over 100,000 people have seen it in just 2 hours." Lena's heart beat faster, but she stayed calm. "Show me," she said softly. They both sat on Lena's old leather couch. Jordan opened the laptop and played the video. The footage was clear. Many people had filmed from different angles. The first clip showed Lena standing calmly at the bank counter. Her hands were visible, her body relaxed. She looked confident and steady. Then the camera switched angles, showing Victor and Malcolm. The two men were moving aggressively, their hands already on their weapons. The sound was loud, and you could hear everything they said. Lena's breathing was calm, measured, even as the men grew angrier. "Look at the comments," Jordan said, scrolling through the endless stream. "People are furious. Civil rights groups, police watchdog pages, even some politicians are sharing it and talking about it." Lena watched herself on the screen. She saw the moment the handcuffs were put on too tightly. She heard her own controlled breathing as the men roughly handled her. Anger bubbled inside her, but she held it down. How many news stations have picked it up? She thought. "All the local stations," Jordan said, showing more tabs on her laptop. "And it's starting to go national." Lena's phone buzzed. It was Chief Robles calling. She let it go to voicemail the first time. "They can't ignore this now," Jordan said, her voice tight with a small smile. "The whole city can see exactly what happened." The phone buzzed again. This time Lena answered, putting it on speaker. "Agent Carter, this is Chief Voss," said the police chief. Her voice was careful, calm, and polite. "I'm calling to let you know that Officers Malcolm and Victor have been placed on administrative leave while we do a full review of the incident at Rivergate Federal." "Thank you for letting me know," Lena replied evenly. "We take these matters very seriously," the chief continued. "The department will conduct a full and transparent investigation." After the call ended, Jordan let out a small snort. Transparent? Now that there's video evidence, they can't hide anything. "They'll try to wait it out," she said. Lena got up to make coffee. Her kitchen was small but tidy, the morning sunlight making the pale yellow walls glow warmly. She filled the kettle and watched the sunlight glint off the polished counter. "Public outrage has a short shelf life," she said quietly. All day, messages came in non-stop. Pastor Miriam called, saying her phone wouldn't stop ringing from reporters. Community leaders called for statements, and civil rights organizations offered their support. By evening, Lena needed a quiet place to think. She met Pastor Miriam at their usual spot, a small soul food restaurant tucked away on Auburn Avenue. "The video is exactly what we needed," Miriam said, stirring her sweet tea. "But you're right to be cautious. I've seen too many cases where clear evidence gets buried under paperwork and rules." Lena nodded, pushing her collard greens slowly around her plate. Public outrage fades fast. We need concrete results while people are still paying attention. The police union is already pushing back, Miriam warned. They'll say the video doesn't show the full story. They might claim you were confrontational before filming started. Let them try that, Lena said. The bank security cameras show the entire interaction. Jordan has already submitted a formal request for it. How are you holding up? Miriam asked softly, noticing the way Lena still favored her wrists. I'm angry, Lena admitted. But it's anger-focused. Every time I feel it trying to take over, I remember why we're really fighting. This isn't just about one incident. It's about changing the whole system that allows this to happen. They finished their meal discussing plans, timing, and how to balance public attention and legal rules. When the restaurant was nearly empty, they left. Keep your guard up, Miriam advised as they walked to their cars. They will try to discredit you, wear you down, and make you doubt yourself. I know their playbook, Lena assured her. I've spent my career studying it. The drive home started normally enough. Lena played soft music on the radio and followed her usual route. 3 blocks from her apartment, she noticed a dark SUV in her rearview mirror. It was unmarked police, but she recognized the small details: the reinforced bumper, the spotlight mount. The SUV stayed 3 car lengths behind, matching her turns exactly. Lena stayed calm. She kept her hands at 10 and 2 on the steering wheel and signaled 3 seconds before each turn. When she stopped at a red light, the SUV moved closer. Through her mirror, she could make out 2 figures in the front seat. The light turned green, and the SUV suddenly accelerated and disappeared around a corner. Lena watched it vanish, her expression unchanged. She wouldn't give them the satisfaction of seeing her scared. Early morning light filtered through the blinds of Jordan's home office. Thin stripes of sunlight fell on stacks of papers, multiple monitors, and sticky notes covered with Jordan's neat handwriting. 2 empty coffee cups sat dangerously close to her keyboard. Lena perched on the edge of a spare chair, watching Jordan type quickly. These numbers from the ledger, Jordan muttered. They're not random. Look at this pattern. She pulled up a spreadsheet showing rows of numbers, each highlighted in different colors. Every 3rd Friday, Rivergate processed a batch of cashier checks, all around $9,000, just under the reporting threshold. Smart, Lena said. Where do they go? That's the beautiful part, Jordan said, clicking to another screen. I tracked them. They go to 6 different nonprofits, all registered in the last 3 years, all saying they help veterans. Lena leaned closer. What programs do they actually run? Jordan pulled up the tax records. Nothing. 0 expenditure on actual veteran services. No employees, no physical addresses, just P.O. boxes. But they all got community development grants from Rivergate. She paused and pointed to a name. And look who signs as board treasurer for 3 of them. Felicity. Different middle initials each time, but that's her signature. Jordan nodded. It gets better. All these shell companies are registered to the same building. She pulled up a street view photo. Marwin Holdings, LLC. Let me guess, Drake Enterprises is involved. If you're enjoying this story, make sure to subscribe and share your favorite part in the comments below. And don't forget to drop a heart to show your support. Lena smiled. Got it in 1. Lena stretched her shoulders. We need warrants fast before they start shredding papers. I'm on it, Jordan said, picking up her phone. Judge Evelyn owes me a favor from a cyber fraud case last year. She has no connections to Drake's circle. She'll approve it. While Jordan made the call, Lena began drafting affidavits on her laptop. Words flowed easily. She turned complex financial crimes into simple stories that judges could follow. She detailed the suspicious transactions, the shell companies, and how it connected to her false arrest. Across town, in a wood-paneled office, Felicity sat rigid in a leather chair. Her perfect manicure was chipped. She twisted her hands nervously. They're going to find everything, she whispered. Calvin Drake lounged behind his massive desk, trying to look calm. Lower your voice, he said. These walls are thick, but there's no need to test them. She saw the ledger during booking. The FBI agent saw our actual ledger. We can discredit her. Her word against ours? Felicity whispered. Yes, Drake said. A professional woman who showed up in gym clothes, who got confrontational. But the video can be interpreted many ways. The public has a short memory. In a week, they'll be outraged about something else. Stick to the script. Back in Jordan's office, the morning had turned to afternoon. Empty takeout containers from the Vietnamese place sat beside fresh coffee cups. Lena was on her third draft of the warrant applications. Suddenly, Jordan sat up straight. Got movement, she said. Large cash withdrawals at 3 Rivergate branches in the last hour. They're trying to empty the accounts. Lena smiled grimly. Classic panic move. Document everything. Judge Evelyn will want real-time evidence. Jordan's phone chimed. A secure message. She grinned. First warrant approved. Rivergate's internal transaction records for the past 5 years. A second chime followed quickly. The Shell Company financial records. One nail at a time, Lena said, raising her coffee cup. Jordan grabbed hers, and they clinked the mugs together in a quiet toast. The afternoon sun cast long shadows through the blinds, catching dust motes in golden light. Lena and Jordan worked in companionable focus, building their case methodically, document by document. On Jordan's desk, her father's old brass paperweight caught the light. Engraved on it were words that felt perfect today: justice moves slow but grinds fine. Evening settled over the First Baptist Church, painting the stained glass windows deep purple and gold. Metal folding chairs scraped against the worn wooden floor as people filled the rows. The familiar scent of old hymns and lemon polish hung in the air. Lena stood at the back, watching the crowd grow. The senior choir warmed up in the corner, their harmonies soft and sweet. Amazing Grace, sung in a minor key, made the hair on Lena's neck stand up. Packed house, Jordan whispered, sliding up beside her with a stack of handouts. Even Channel 4 showed up. Good, Lena nodded. The more witnesses, the better. Pastor Miriam stepped to the podium, her presence commanding attention. The murmur of voices faded to silence. We gather tonight, she began, because truth needs to be spoken. Justice delayed is justice denied. What happened to Dr. Lena Carter could happen to any of us. It has happened to too many. Lena stepped forward, straightening the papers in her hand, though she barely needed them. She had practiced all day, stripping away legal words and making everything simple enough for anyone to understand. Thank you all for coming, she began. Lena told everyone in the big hall about 2 kinds of money. The first kind is the money you can see in your bank. The coins in your piggy bank, the bills in your wallet, the numbers in your bank account. Deposits, withdrawals, honest money. You can watch it move, count it, and know where it goes. The second kind, she said slowly, looking carefully at each person, is secret money. It hides. It hides in secret accounts, in companies that are not real. It can move quietly, like a cat sneaking through the night. Sometimes, this hidden money is used to be unfair to people. Sometimes it is used to hurt others or to make the people with power richer, while others are left behind. Lena explained more. Some banks have rules to make things fair, but sometimes they use these rules to be unfair. Some people have to wait forever while others are helped very fast. Some rules that are supposed to protect everyone are used to hurt people instead. She talked about fake charities, places that say they help people but really move money to secret accounts. Each step might look okay to someone who isn't paying attention, but really it is wrong. When they put me in handcuffs, she said, calm and brave, they thought they were hiding a big secret. But I've spent 20 years following money. I've seen how unfairness can become normal. I've seen how bad people try to hide the truth with rules and papers and numbers. I know how to follow the trail of money. In the audience, Mr. Lawrence, a veteran who had served his country, nodded his head. His wife sat next to him, dabbing her eyes with a tissue because she felt the sadness of the unfairness. Lena continued, "This is not about one bad day at one bank. It is about a system that pretends to be good but is really bad. Rules that are supposed to help people instead protect unfairness. Systems that protect people with power instead of protecting everyone. She gave examples everyone could understand. Money that was supposed to help Rivergate's community development disappeared into empty offices. Fake charities for veterans moved money from one account to another without helping anyone. Payments that were supposed to be honest consulting fees were really just kickbacks, like secret rewards for doing something dishonest. But here's the good news, Lena said, her voice full of hope. Sunlight is the best cleaner. When the truth is shown, it shines on everything. Once you know what is happening, you cannot forget it. Once you see someone being unfair, you cannot stop seeing it. You cannot unsee it. The crowd was listening carefully. Even the reporters leaned forward, trying to hear every word. Then Chief Natalie Voss stood up. Her uniform was neat, her face serious. Lena stepped aside and watched as the chief spoke. The Rivergate Police Department, Robles began, has failed our community. Not just in Dr. Carter's case, but in ways that go deep and have lasted for a long time. She gripped the podium tightly. That is why we have invited the Department of Justice to check all our rules and actions. They will do a full investigation to see if we have been fair or unfair. The crowd erupted. Some people clapped, some cried, some cheered. Pastor Miriam raised her hands to ask for quiet. Chief Voss continued. We are fixing our rules right now. No more handcuffing people without a good reason. No more stopping people from making phone calls. No more picking and choosing who must follow the rules. Lena noticed fear in the chief's face. Fear of the police union, fear of politicians, fear of being blamed. But she also saw something else. Maybe relief, maybe hope. Then the senior choir moved to the front. Their voices started singing the old civil rights song, Ain't Going to Let Nobody Turn Me Around. People swayed, some sang along. Lena felt warmth in her chest. This was not victory yet, but it was validation. The truth had been spoken aloud in a safe, sacred space. She saw Mrs. Eleanor, who had banked at Rivergate for 40 years, nodding her gray head to the music. Young parents were explaining to their children why this mattered. They wanted the children to know about fairness, honesty, and courage. After the song ended, people started gathering their things to leave. Pastor Miriam took Lena's arm. You've got them listening now, she whispered. They cannot pretend they do not understand anymore. Now we make them tell the truth. Lena nodded, feeling the weight of what was coming next. Reporters were packing up cameras and checking recording equipment. Community leaders gathered in small groups, planning their next steps. The truth was moving now, rolling like a tide, unstoppable. Across town, Calvin Drake watched the live recording of the meeting. His jaw was tight, and he was already thinking about what he would do next. But tonight belonged to the truth. Lena sat at her kitchen counter, her coffee getting cold beside her laptop. Morning sunlight filtered through the blinds, making lines across the table. Her spoon clinked against the cup as she stirred sugar that had long dissolved. Breaking news came on the TV. The announcer's voice was calm, but the story was scary. The video from the bank incident showed Lena acting angry. But it was fake. The real parts, where she was calm and explaining, had been cut. They made her look mean and aggressive. The timestamps were changed, so it looked like she was doing things she never did. This is serious, said the police union spokesman on TV. No one, not even a federal agent, should break bank rules. Lena called Jordan. I'm already checking the video, Jordan said. The edits are T-simony, but I can see mistakes in the details. Give me time. Lena watched Drake at a podium outside the courthouse. We are adding more charges, he said. He straightened his red tie. His smile looked practiced but fake. Her mother called next. Baby, are you watching this foolishness? I'm watching, Mama, Lena said. Pastor Miriam sent a text. We're meeting tonight. The community will not let this happen. Lena knew they were trying to ruin her reputation before the investigation even began. They wanted everyone to think she was wrong, so no one would look at the bigger truth about the money. The day crawled by slowly. Lena worked at home, reviewing case files while texts from supporters kept coming. Around 6 p.m., Jordan texted, "I am heading home. I made progress on the video." At 7:45 p.m., Lena's phone rang. It was Jordan, and she sounded scared. "Someone followed me from the office. I saw them 3 blocks back. I tried to lose them on the subway. When I got off, they grabbed my bag. I fought back and got some skin under my nails. But they also tried to access my laptop from far away. They cloned my hard drive before trying to steal it." "Where are you now?" Lena asked. "In my apartment. Doors locked, security system on." "Stay there," Lena ordered. "I'm calling help." She looked out the window. A dark car was outside, idling across the street. Its engine made a soft humming sound in the quiet evening. The headlights winked out one by one. "Lena, I'm scared," Jordan whispered. "I know, honey," Lena said. "But they are scared too. That is why they are pushing so hard. We are close. They know it." They talked for a few more minutes. Lena reminded Jordan to follow security steps they had both practiced. Having a plan helped them feel safe when everything else felt scary. After they hung up, Lena watched the dark sedan outside. Her phone lit up with another text from Pastor Miriam. "They think they can rewrite history. But God sees, and so do we." Lena looked at her father's old badge on the wall. He had faced nights like this, too, when the truth seemed small and lies seemed big. The dark car outside was a message. Back down. Look away. Let the system protect itself. But Lena did not back down. She had spent her career following money through darkness, uncovering secrets, exposing unfairness, and now they had given her a new trail to follow. From fake videos to stolen laptops, from false charges to cars waiting outside, every move they made showed a map of corruption. The war had escalated. Yes, it has become more dangerous. But that also meant they were afraid. Afraid of what she would find when she turned on the light. Morning sunlight reflected off the glass of the J. Edgar Hoover building as Lena arrived. She wore a charcoal pantsuit, a crisp white blouse, and polished shoes. Professional, perfect, and unimpeachable. Her heels clicked against the marble as she walked to the security checkpoint. The guard, Tom, who had greeted her with a smile for 15 years, would not meet her eyes. "ID and badge, please, ma'am," he said. Lena handed them over. The reader flashed red. "There seems to be an issue," he mumbled, calling for backup. 2 security officers came to escort her. "Agent Carter, we need to take you to the 7th floor." The elevator ride was silent. Lena noticed everything. Names, timestamps, faces of people in the elevator. Evidence, always evidence. Deputy Director Phillips waited in the executive corridor. "Agent Carter, please come into my office," he said. Morning sunlight made long shadows across his desk. Lena sat straight in her chair, hands folded. Phillips shuffled papers he was not actually reading. "Given the current situation, we are reassigning you to administrative duties," he said. "Your field credentials and building access are suspended pending review. You will work from home until further notice." "This isn't personal," Lena repeated, bitter as ash. "It's entirely personal," Phillips said carefully. Lena left the office. In the bullpen where she had worked for 20 years, agents ducked behind monitors. Phones suddenly needed answering. Only Jordan, eyes red from lack of sleep, stood to hug her. "They cannot stop us," Jordan whispered. "No," Lena agreed. "They cannot." Chief Voss called for an urgent meeting. She warned Lena that Drake had a lot of influence. The bank board chairman played golf with the mayor. Half the city council was on his side. Lena asked, "Are you saying I should back down?" "No," Voss said. "I'm saying be careful. But don't stop. You still can." Lena spent the afternoon at home reviewing files, building her case despite restrictions. Around 6, her mother arrived with grocery bags. "You need to eat," Ruth said. "The kitchen is filled with smells of home. Cornbread, collard greens." her father's favorite chicken recipe. Remember when Daddy faced a corruption investigation? Ruth asked. I remember, Lena said. He didn't back down either. No, baby. Fighting for what is right runs in your blood, her mother said. They ate together, talking about simple things, church gossip, neighborhood news, memories of better days. Lena helped with dishes afterward, finding comfort in the routine. Through the window, darkness had settled over the street. A car engine purred to life outside. Headlights swept across the kitchen wall, then went dark. The doorbell rang. Stay here, Mama, Lena said quietly, moving slowly to the front door. Her police gun was in the drawer nearby, but she left it there. She knew she could grab it if she needed to, but she didn't want to start a fight. Let them make the first move, she whispered to herself. Through the little peephole, she could see Simon Cole standing on her porch. His police uniform was neat and perfect, his hat in his hands. His smile looked friendly at first, but there was something sharp and mean about it. Lena opened the door. Evening, Agent Carter, he said softly, like he was being polite, but it didn't feel polite at all. Nice night for a visit. What do you want, Officer Cole? Just passing by, he said, spinning his hat slowly in his hands. A little friendly advice. People who stir up trouble usually end up in trouble themselves. It would be a shame if anything happened to this nice house, or to your sweet mama. Lena's hand gripped the edge of the doorframe tightly, but her voice stayed calm. Are you threatening me, officer? He laughed, a hollow, empty sound. Threatening? No. I'm protecting. That's my job, he said, putting his hat back on his head. Have a good night. Give your mama my regards. He walked away, whistling a sad little tune. Lena watched him go until he reached his car. She remembered every detail, what kind of car it was, the color, the license plate number. Evidence, she thought. Always evidence. She closed the door and noticed her hand was trembling on the knob. She took a deep breath and looked in the mirror. Her reflection stared back, eyes hard as steel. Let them come, she whispered. I have the truth. In the kitchen, her mother, Ruth, was waiting. She had a knowing look on her face and a fresh cup of coffee ready. They sat together in the growing dark, two generations of women who knew how to stand firm when the night tried to scare them. The next morning, sunlight shone through the dusty windows. Ruth climbed the narrow attic stairs, and Lena followed closely behind. The wooden steps creaked under their feet. Every sound echoed through memories that had been stored for decades. Your father never threw away a single paper, Ruth said, moving toward stacks of boxes labeled neatly in marker. Com records, 1980, 1990. He always said, Lena began, evidence tells stories that people won't. Lena helped her mother lift a heavy cardboard box. Its corners were soft from age. They carried it down to the kitchen table where Jordan had set up her laptop. Multiple screens displayed streams of financial data. Look at this, Ruth said, holding out a yellowed newsletter. Neighborhood Watch Bulletin, 1987. She pointed to a headline. Rivergate Bank denies local business loans. Lena leaned in and read aloud. Fourth rejection this month for qualified black business owners. Bank cites zoning concerns, even though the city approved the plans. That's just the start, Ruth continued, taking out more papers. Your father kept everything. Meeting minutes, protest flyers, rejection letters. Every single thing. Jordan looked up from her laptop. Mrs. Carter, did they use the same forms back then? Oh yes. Carbon copies, all identical, Ruth said, showing a thin blue sheet. See the letterhead? The same family ran the bank. Felicity's grandfather was the chairman. Lena's eyes narrowed. Not the same manager who called the cops on me. Ruth shook her head. A legacy of hate, she muttered. She spread more documents across the table. Look at these maps. Neighborhood layouts, color-coded. Red lines for denied loans. Dates stamped in corners, amounts noted in margins. But this is the real treasure, Ruth said, pulling out a leather-bound community meeting book. Every Sunday after church, the neighborhood association wrote down everything that happened. Names, dates, patterns. Lena scanned the careful handwriting and paused at a familiar name. Drake Sr., Calvin's father. Yes, Ruth said. He was the bank's main lawyer back then. The same law firm still represents Rivergate today. Donations? They've been giving money to both Drake's father and son for 30 years. Lena touched the old papers gently. They built an empire on excluding people, and they're still doing it? Jordan pointed to a screen. I analyzed the surveillance video they leaked. It's been edited. The timeline was changed to make it look like you were there at 9:47 a.m., but the teller system shows your check processed at 10:23 a.m. The IP address traces back to the DA's office, Drake's department. Ruth shook her head and gathered more papers. She found a faded photograph showing herself as a younger woman, standing with other protesters outside Rivergate's original location. But we didn't give up then, and we won't give up now, Ruth said. Lena studied the faces in the photo. Proud, defiant, determined. We have something they don't expect, Mama, Lena said. The long memory of our community, Ruth replied. They think if it's not in their official papers, it didn't happen. But we wrote everything down. Receipts, letters, names. Jordan's phone buzzed. Pastor Miriam confirmed tomorrow's rally location. Jordan added, I cross-referenced the old loan records with today's bank board members. 5 families have kept continuous control since the 1980s. Same patterns, same players, same prejudice. They worked through the afternoon, building a timeline that spanned generations. Ruth's careful archives revealed a web of bankers, lawyers, and politicians, all working to keep power through exclusion and intimidation. As evening approached, Lena spread all the collected evidence across the kitchen table. Old documents beside new printouts, past and present aligned in damning parallel. 30 years of systematic discrimination now exposed to scrutiny. We end this where it started at that bank, Lena said quietly, her finger tracing a route on an old street map. Ruth touched the old protest photo again and looked at her daughter with pride. Your father would say it's time to balance the books. Saturday morning dawned clear and cool. Lena stood in front of the bathroom mirror, carefully attaching a tiny body camera to her blazer lapel. Her hands were steady, but her heart thumped with excitement and anticipation. Today would change everything. The drive to Rivergate took her past familiar streets, now lined with parked cars and people walking toward the bank. By 8:30, the parking lot had turned into a sea of faces. Church ladies with colorful hair, teenagers with hand-painted signs, community leaders in pressed suits. Mrs. Ruth Carter sat in a folding chair near the stage, surrounded by other seniors from her generation. They had brought their own documentation, folders of denied loan applications, old protest photos, faded but powerful proof of decades of discrimination. Looking sharp, boss, Jordan called through Lena's earpiece. She had set up a command center in the church's fellowship hall across the street, surrounded by monitors showing different angles of the crowd. DOJ team members were already there, some in plain clothes scattered through the assembly. Lena scanned the growing assembly. Signs bobbed above heads, dignity is not a crime, bank justice now, stop corruption. Local news vans lined the street. The energy felt electric, controlled, but ready to spark. Pastor Miriam strode through the crowd in her trademark purple suit, greeting people by name, radiating calm authority. She paused beside Lena to check her own microphone. Everything in place? Yes, Lena said. Jordan had all the camera angles running, and 2 internal affairs sergeants were stationed in a black SUV by the pharmacy. The DOJ was observing quietly. Pastor Miriam squeezed Lena's arm. Your daddy would be proud of this moment. The clock struck 9. Pastor Miriam stepped on the stage, a flatbed trailer draped with banners. The crowd hushed. We gather today not in anger, but in righteous determination, Pastor Miriam began. We come seeking restitution, not just for Agent Carter's dignity, but for 30 years of systematic exclusion. We have the receipts, as our young folks say. We have the proof. Lena watched the bank's tinted windows. No movement inside, but she knew they were watching. Jordan reported through her earpiece, Movement at the police staging area, 3 blocks south. 2 units just pulled out. Pastor Miriam continued, her words strong and clear. When they put handcuffs on Lena Carter, they thought they were restraining one woman. Instead, they shackled themselves to their own corruption. Today, we demand more than apologies. We demand change. The crowd responded with steady applause. Lena noticed some of her FBI colleagues scattered throughout, standing quietly, watching. Chief Voss' SUV edged closer. Internal affairs officers stepped out to maintain clear lines of sight. Lena kept speaking. We are here because dignity matters, because truth matters, because justice matters. The crowd's collective intake of breath made her pause. Through the morning glare, she saw them clearly. Malcolm and Cole, masked behind riot shields, moving with practiced coordination through the assembly. She felt the familiar chill of their presence, the same cold certainty she'd felt in the bank that first day. But this time was different. This time, she was ready. The crowd continued to cheer, voices rising in support. But Lena's focus narrowed to the approaching officers. The trap was closing, exactly as planned. The crowd chanted, "No justice, no peace, no justice, no peace." The rhythm pulsed through the morning air, unified and determined. Malcolm's voice cut through sharply. "Security threat. Clear the area." He shoved past a row of elderly women, nearly knocking Mrs. Clara off her walker. The crowd gasped, but stayed firm. Lena watched Cole approaching, noting the suspicious envelope clutched in his left hand. His right hand stayed near his belt, a classic intimidation stance. "Stay back," Pastor Miriam shouted. The crowd surged forward protectively. Lena reacted instinctively. She pivoted away from Cole's grasp while keeping her balance. His hand met empty air, and his momentum carried him straight into a folding table full of water bottles. The crash echoed through the parking lot, startling everyone nearby. The water bottles tumbled and rolled across the pavement. People gasped but didn't move back. The crowd stayed strong, protecting Lena. Jordan whispered through the earpiece, "All cameras are capturing this. DOJ observers are taking notes." Lena straightened herself, taking a deep breath. She looked out at the crowd, their faces shining in the morning sun. "We are not afraid," she said. "We are ready to speak our truth." The officers froze for a moment, surprised by the strong, peaceful presence of the crowd. But Lena wasn't done. She raised her hands and held up the old redlining maps. "These patterns," she said, "started before I was born. They tried to silence me, but today we will not be silent. We will show the world what has been hidden for too long." The crowd cheered again, louder this time, their voices rising together. Cameras clicked, phones recorded, and the energy felt unstoppable. Malcolm ran forward very fast, pushing Mr. Harold, an 80-year-old man who was trying to help. "Stop resisting! Stop resisting!" someone shouted loudly. But before Malcolm could reach Lena, Pastor Naomi, an older woman with lots of energy, grabbed a heavy wooden box from the donation table. Even though she had silver hair and looked gentle, she swung the box with all her strength and hit Malcolm's shoulder. He stumbled back and shouted angrily, rubbing his arm. The envelope Harlan had been holding flew out of his hands. It slid across the stage and landed face up. Everyone could see the label clearly. It said, "District Attorney's Office, Evidence Control Division." Camera 3 had a perfect shot of the label, and Jordan, who was helping Lena, got pictures from different angles. She whispered excitedly through Lena's earpiece, "I got everything. Every single moment." The crowd around them was loud and chaotic. People shouted, some pushed, and some tried to get closer to see what was happening. 2 officers from Internal Affairs finally pushed their way through the crowd. One grabbed Malcolm's arm to stop him from reaching for his belt. The other officer stood between Harlan and Lena, blocking him. The older people in the crowd, including Mr. Harold, stood together. They formed a human wall. Their faces were strong and serious. Mrs. Carter, Lena's mother, raised her voice so everyone could hear, "Not today. Not to my daughter." The older people held their ground, showing courage and love for Lena. Suddenly, A strong, clear voice rang out through the crowd. "Federal jurisdiction." A tall person in a dark suit stepped forward holding a shiny badge. "This scene is now under Department of Justice control," the person said, without needing to shout. The voice was calm but full of authority. Immediately, everything changed. Cole dropped his radio. Malcolm stopped struggling against the internal affairs officer. The crowd went from angry shouting to shocked gasps, and then slowly started clapping. The clapping grew louder and louder until it became a cheer, and some people shouted, "Hallelujah!" Lena stood very still, watching the federal agents approach. 2 more agents appeared from the crowd. Their badges glinted in the morning sun. Agent Carter, the lead federal observer, nodded respectfully to Lena. "We've been watching everything since the first incident," she said. "What happened today will be part of our bigger investigation." The federal observer turned to Harlan and Malcolm. "Officers, you must give your badges and weapons to Internal Affairs. You are now part of a federal civil rights investigation." Malcolm rubbed his shoulder where Pastor Naomi had hit him. Pastor Naomi held the wooden box tightly and stepped in front of Lena. The sunlight shone on her silver hair, making her look like a queen. The crowd kept clapping and cheering. Mrs. Carter walked up to the stage. Tears ran down her face, but she held her head high. Phones everywhere were recording, capturing the moment when justice happened. Lena watched as Internal Affairs officers took Harlan and Malcolm away. The envelope from the DA's office was carefully picked up and photographed exactly where it had fallen. Signs in the crowd read, "Dignity is not a crime." That day, the words felt very true to everyone. Evening came. News helicopters flew over the city. Every big TV channel interrupted their shows to report live. "This is being called the Rivergate Conspiracy," a news reporter announced. Earlier today, a community rally revealed a big problem with corruption. Lena sat on her couch in her rally clothes, watching all the news on her tablet and TV at the same time. Jordan typed quickly, writing down every detail as it happened. A legal expert on Channel 7 said, "The evidence is very clear." The envelope found at the scene had official district attorney markings. This was not just a small plan. This goes to the top. Security footage from the DA's office showed the envelope being taken out of evidence storage the night before. The timestamp matched exactly when Marbar had visited late at night. Zoe shouted suddenly, "Turn to Channel 2." The footage showed Harlan and Malcolm being led out of Internal Affairs in handcuffs. Their faces looked shocked and scared. The news banner showed the charges: obstruction of justice, evidence tampering, civil rights violations, conspiracy. "Look at Harlan," Jordan whispered. "Not so scary without his badge, huh?" The news switched to Rivergate Federal Savings Bank. FBI agents were escorting Felicity out the doors. Her fancy suit could not hide her shaking hands. The reporter explained that she faced charges for bank fraud, conspiracy, and civil rights violations. Mrs. Carter brought in a fresh pot of coffee and sat down. "Lord have mercy," she whispered, her hands clasped, as she watched her daughter's victory on TV. She was proud of Lena's courage and dignity. At 8 p.m., Calvin Drake, the assistant district attorney, held an emergency press conference outside the courthouse. Sweat was visible on his face, and his tie was crooked. "I resign as assistant district attorney," he said, trying to look calm. Reporters shouted questions about the envelope. He ran away from the podium, and cameras kept showing him leaving. Jordan smiled and whispered, "Poetry. Pure poetry." At 9 p.m., Chief Natalie Robles went to the same podium. Her uniform was crisp, and her words were clear. "Our department has made mistakes," she said. "Today, we are starting big changes under the Department of Justice. We will have bias training, change rules about use of force, and create a civilian review board." She turned to Lena and said, "On behalf of the Rivergate Police Department, we apologize for the mistakes made. Your rights were never supposed to be violated. Your record will be cleared immediately." Later, Pastor Naomi called Lena. "God doesn't like ugly, but he loves justice," she said. "Your daddy would be so proud of you." As the night went on, more details came out. The FBI had taken records from Rivergate Federal Savings showing years of unfair treatment. Cole's phone showed he had coordinated with Mar-Bar for months. Malcolm had started helping investigators, giving information in return for leniency. By 11 p.m., most news crews had left. The helicopters stopped flying. Lena and Jordan sat quietly in the kitchen, remembering the hard days. "They really thought they could break you," Jordan said, shaking her head. Lena smiled softly. "It just made my mission clearer," she said. A week later, the sun shone through Lena's apartment windows. She wore her clean, sharp FBI suit. Her badge gleamed. Her mother, Ruth, smoothed an imaginary wrinkle on Lena's shoulder. "Your father would be proud," she said. Pastor Naomi came to drive them. "Ready to make another deposit?" she asked with a knowing smile. This time, there were no cameras, no protest signs. People lined the sidewalk, some holding small American flags. Older neighbors brought folding chairs to watch. At the bank, Chief Natalie Robles waited. Lena held the envelope with the $287,400 check, the same one that started the changes. Inside the bank, tellers stopped working and watched her carefully. A new security guard nodded respectfully. Sofia Vega, the young teller who had seen Lena treated unfairly before, came forward to help. Her hands trembled slightly, but her smile was real. "Welcome back, Agent Carter," Sofia said. Lena replied calmly, "I'd like to make a deposit." Chief Robles spoke again. "On behalf of the Rivergate Police Department, we apologize for the injustice you faced. Your dignity should always be respected." Lena nodded. Sofia processed the deposit slowly and carefully. The receipt showed that the money would go to help children learn technology and get legal help when they needed it most. Outside, the crowd started clapping again. Mr. Lawrence, the veteran who had spoken up during Lena's arrest, sat proudly in his folding chair. The church choir had come, and their voices filled the morning air. Ruth held Lena's hand. This deposit wasn't just money. It was a statement. Dignity must always be respected. Pastor Naomi stood tall beside Lena. Outside, workers were installing a new sign, the Carter Center for Tech and Justice. This building would soon have computer labs, legal help, and meeting spaces for the community. The choir sang softly, "Ain't gonna let nobody turn me around," their voices floating in the air. Lena saw a new plaque by the bank door. "The right to dignity is not subject to verification." The bank was no longer just a place for money. It was now a place of hope, fairness, and truth. Lena stood with her mother and Pastor Naomi, feeling the weight of generations of people who had fought for justice and the promise of those who would benefit in the future. Justice had been served that day, but it was more than just punishment for those who did wrong. It was a lesson for the entire city. The people who had tried to hurt Lena had learned that being mean and unfair could not win. The community has shown that courage, kindness, and standing up for what is right can change everything. Lena smiled, feeling the warmth of the sun on her face. She could feel the love and pride of everyone around her. The people who had cheered, the people who had prayed, and the people who had quietly supported her. She knew that the work wasn't over, but for now, justice had won. The money from the check would help children learn new skills, help families in need, and protect people who might face unfair treatment. The Carter Center for Tech and Justice would stand as a symbol of hope. Children would come to learn, families would come to get help, and everyone would remember that one person standing for truth can make a huge difference. Lena looked at her mother and Pastor Naomi. Together, they had fought for something bigger than themselves. Together, they have shown that dignity and justice can shine brighter than any wrongdoing. The choir's voices grew stronger. The crowd outside clapped and cheered. Flags waved in the morning sun. Lena felt a deep peace in her heart. She knew that the fight for fairness and respect was never ending, but today, they had made a difference that would last for a long time. Lena Carter had faced challenges that could have broken anyone. But she had stayed calm, worked carefully, and never stopped believing that right would win over wrong. Today, the city saw that courage, determination, and faith in justice could create real change. As the morning continued, more people came to the bank to see Lena and the new center. Children waved shyly from the sidewalks. Families smiled and thanked her. Pastors and community leaders spoke softly, telling stories of how they had supported her journey. Every face in the crowd reminded Lena why standing for truth mattered. Inside the bank, Sophia handed Lena the receipt. It was more than a piece of paper. It represented victory, fairness, and hope. Lena felt proud. Her eyes met her mother's, and Ruth gave her a small, loving nod. Pastor Naomi gave a quiet smile, her silver hair catching the sunlight. This moment was theirs, and it was unforgettable. Lena knew this was just the beginning. There would be more challenges ahead. There would be more fights to protect dignity, fairness, and truth. But she also knew that no matter what, she had the courage, the wisdom, and the support of her family and community to face whatever came next. The Carter Center for Tech and Justice would be a place where learning, fairness, and kindness lived together. Children would grow up knowing that justice matters. Families would learn that standing up for what is right can change lives. And the city would remember that a single person's courage can inspire thousands to believe in fairness and truth. Lena took a deep breath and smiled. She felt the warmth of the morning sun, the strength of her community, and the pride of her family. Today, justice has been served. Today, dignity had won. And tomorrow, the fight for fairness and hope will continue, brighter than ever. If this story moved you, please subscribe for more kind and powerful stories. Watch our next video for another unforgettable journey. And share this story with someone who needs it today.